I'm Ryan George at Ryan George Fitness. I'm here at Nova, New York in Ridgewood, Queens, and today we're going to talk about some leg stretches. So we're going to go over 3 really good, really important leg stretches for areas that are typically problem areas for people. So the first one is a hip flexor stretch. The hip flexor stretch is a really good stretch and really kind of loosens up the pelvis and really helps with the lower back. Especially if you have any kind of lower back issues. So it's really straightforward. You start by kneeling, so you're on one knee, one foot's on the floor. So the first part of the movement is that you extend forward at the hips. You want to extend at the hip, and right there you start to feel quite a bit of a stretch in the hip. So from that point, you want to hold it there, take the same arm, and pull straight back. So you want to maintain that forward motion or forward movement at the hip while pulling the arm straight back. From that second position, you'll then reach over your head in the opposite direction. So you want to keep all 3 of those movements at the same time. So you're extended at the hip, you're reaching back with the arm, and then you're reaching over the head in the opposite direction with the same arm. You want to hold that stretch for about 15 to 20 seconds, and then switch over to the other side and do the same thing. The second stretch is a hamstring stretch. This is another area that typically is tight on most people, and this is a really good stretch for that area. So you basically start with the staggered stance. So one foot's in front of the other. You bend both knees and touch the floor, almost as if you were running track. So that's the first part of the position. So you want to keep your hands on the floor, and from that position, extend both knees. So the stretch is going to be for the front leg, for the front hamstring. So you should feel the stretch there. You want to keep the hands on the floor the whole time, and if your leg isn't completely straight, that's not a problem. As long as you feel the stretch, you're doing fine. If you have trouble touching the floor, you can also do it on an elevated surface. So you can take a step or a desk or a phone book, anything that's elevated, and touch that as well if you can't reach all the way to the floor or if it's just too uncomfortable. So the third stretch is a calf stretch. So this one is pretty straightforward. So you start next to a wall. So you have your hands against the wall, and then from there you take one leg and extend it all the way back. You want to have the back foot flat on the floor and then bend the front knee with the foot staying flat on the floor. So if you feel like it's too intense, you can move the foot forward a little bit, or alternatively, if it's not intense enough, you can also extend the leg back. But you should feel a stretch in the calves. It's important when you're doing this stretch to keep the leg straight, to keep the foot flat on the floor, and try to keep your toes pointed straight ahead when you're doing it. So that's it. I hope it helps. If you have any other questions, check me out online at Ryan George Fitness.